stashing players in fantasy football has been paying off, honestly, this year like never before. We've seen Oronde Gadsden, Kyle Monangai, Woody Marks is all the way back. All these guys have just been sitting on our benches for weeks, maybe months, maybe multiple months, and we're starting to see value. I really view heading into week 8, really view this as a good time in fantasy football to kind of reset the bench, reset the roster, build from the ground up, make those zero fab investments, those non-waiver claim investments, pick people up off the waivers and stash them. And we have some potential league winners here. And we're just going to begin with Devin Neal. Now, Kendre Miller is out for the season. He wasn't doing, too much where you could put Kendre Miller in your lineup, right? And feel good about it in your RB2 spot, for example, even a flex. Maybe some weeks here, for example, week 4, 12.5 points, he got in the end zone. That was the week he outrushed Kamara, especially in the red zone. Then, the next week we still saw 10 carries. In week 6, we saw 8 carries and a target. So he was very involved, floating around 40% of snaps. We look at Kamara's game log in weeks 5 and 6 when Kendre Miller had those 40%, 39% snap games, 56% of snaps and 63. So at times they were on the field together. But for example, right, let's just look at week 6 here. Kamara, 63% of snaps and 10 carries. We have Kendre Miller, 39% and 8 carries, so very similar. We look at week 5. Kamara only had 8 attempts. In week 5, Miller had 10. So this really was, in my opinion, moving towards a 50-50 split. Miller was very good. And now we have the coaching staff coming out and describing Devin Neal, the rookie out of Kansas, in a very positive light. They love this guy. He is the clear new running back 2. The coaching staff for the Saints has come out and said that. So if Neal is on your lineup, I really believe you're just kind of going and picking up Kendre Miller for fantasy football purposes. What you actually get out of them, like when you watch them with your eyes, they're not going to look similar. Neal, honestly, I think my comparison this offseason, just in terms of his play style, is more Kamara-esque, whereas Kendre Miller is kind of like, kind of just ground and pound. Very good, very elusive, very strong, and physical runner, right? Kamara really is more so that swift guy, kind of like in and out of tackles, making people miss, running away from guys, and somehow making his way up the field. You're going to get more of that with Neal. So Neal and Kamara are actually 2 very similar backs, and that might actually mean for me, in my head, that Neal might see more work than Miller was seeing. Because now all of a sudden, when Neal's in the game, they don't have to change their play calling, right? They can just swap Kamara and Neal interchangeably. Kamara has come out and said that he does not want to be traded. The team has committed to him to not be traded. With that being said, we just never know. We have about 2 weeks or so until the trade deadline. If Kamara were to go, Neal is quite literally a league winner. Obviously, Kendre Miller going down kind of, makes that less likely, Kamara leaving. But I do think Neal in PPR leagues could have some value here, especially like down the season or down the line if Kamara starts to fade, 30 years old, hasn't had the bye yet. I don't think Kamara is going to be seeing 84% of snaps like we saw in week 7 when Kendre went down. And by the way, 84% of snaps, only 14 opportunities. So very odd usage. He had the same amount of opportunities here in week 5. His second lowest targets in a game. He has 2 games with 2. And then this third game here was 3 targets in week 7. So it's like very weird usage. I see an area where Neal could move in. How soon it happens, whatever. I'm waffling now. But yeah, as I said, Neal has this 3-down capability. So in college, he was very impressive. I'm not a dynasty guy. I'm not a prospect guy. I don't claim to be. But it's pretty easy to tell when someone deserves a shot in the NFL. And a lot of the dynasty guys that I respect on Twitter, shout out my boy Snug, for example, he loves Neal. He has 3-down capability. So every single year in college, he increased his receiving totals. He became a better receiver. Something we look for in running backs is any position, honestly, if there's a skill that isn't amazing, you could be like, well, he's not a good receiver out of the backfield. Okay, but he's getting better. Here's 4 years of proof of that. So that's evidence to suggest that he will continue to do so. 5,000 plus total yards and over 50 touchdowns in his career. He had 3 straight seasons with 300 plus touches, Devin Neal did, so he can be a workhorse for sure. And he holds the Kansas University records for scrimmage touchdowns and rushing yards, so definitely really an impressive player. Talked a lot about him, but I do think it's worth it, and like he is just sitting on waivers, boys, like sitting on waivers. Colston Loveland is the next guy. As you guys know, I love my Bears players. Love Ben Johnson, love Caleb Williams, love the offense. I think the stat right now going around is they're the only offense to score over 20 points in the last 4 games or 5 games or something like that. Moral of the story is very high floor offense, whether it's Monungai, Swift, Williams, Odunze, maybe Loveland, maybe Burden, right? Whoever it is, probably not DJ Moore. Very high floor in terms of what they're going to do week to week, however they get there. It's just an offense you want to be buying in on. Now, Cole Kmet was ruled out of week 7 last week with a back injury. And as a result, Loveland, we see here, season high, 67% snaps, resulted in season high, 4 targets. The Ravens are a bottom 3 defense in the NFL, maybe the single worst. So if Kmet is out, Loveland is not only a great streaming option, but a fantastic stash. Because if he comes out and breaks out this week, next week, who do they have? At Cincinnati. Look up how Cincinnati is versus tight ends. I'll give you a hint. The worst team in the NFL. They are the worst team in the NFL versus tight ends. So if Kmet is a multi-week absence here, maybe you don't start Kmet this week. You absolutely can if Kmet is out. But if, Loveland comes out and has 8 targets, catches 6 or 7 of them, all of a sudden against Cincinnati, he's, low-end tight end 1 territory, right in the Cade Otton, Mason Taylor, maybe even higher. Oronde Gadsden, kind of in that range of guys next week. So Loveland really is a priority stash. Some notes on Loveland. He had obviously top 15 or top 10 pick in the NFL draft. Pretty insane. I imagine they want to use him. In college last year, set the record for highest target share ever by a tight end. 34% of Michigan's targets went to Colston Loveland. That is over a third of their passes went to this guy. He had a 99% dominator rating. Literally one of the most productive tight ends in college history, to be honest with you. So we're seeing what Warren is doing. We're seeing what Bowers did last year in his rookie year. We could have a back half of the season breakout for Colston Loveland. Okay, let's move on. Isaiah Davis is the next name. He's the running back for the Jets who backs up Breece Hall. But there could be reason to believe that there's a bit of a takeover occurring here, or maybe should I just say a bit of an evening, a peanut butter smoothing of the running back workload, if you will. So with Breece, there's 3 outcomes, in my opinion. He just continues to be Breece, where he has some good games, he has some not so good games. We're never really going to see 90%, 80%, 75% of snaps, right? And yeah, he's just a high-end RB2. Maybe some weeks he finishes as the best running back in fantasy. Maybe some weeks he doesn't because there's no quarterback. My mailman plays QB for the team, right? So yeah, that's one outcome. The other outcome, he gets traded. Now, he has said he doesn't want to be traded. Honestly, the things Woody Johnson's saying, the coaching staff, what's going on with that team right now, I can't believe a word out of anyone's mouth. They're like 0-7. I don't think they've won a game yet. Would not surprise me at all if Breece Hall is traded after this week, potentially, as they go into the bye. Would not surprise me at all, even though he said he doesn't want to be. That's the second option. And then the third is that he has this lingering knee injury, and now he's limited, so maybe he gets a full practice, right? Works through it, whatever, but maybe that injury becomes a bigger thing. He is injured right now. 2 of those 3 outcomes point to Isaiah Davis kind of having more value than he does right now. Okay? So first of all, if Breece were to miss any game, or Isaiah Davis, if you were to miss any game, Breece Hall, or get traded, Isaiah Davis instantly that week, top 20 running back. In week 7, with this injury, we saw Isaiah Davis, 48% of snaps. That is a season high, okay? Look at this. Look at his snaps. 13, 21, 13, 33, 40, 26, 48. Season high. Tied his season high in targets with 4. That's more than Breece Hall last week. We go to Breece, season low, 54% of snaps. 14 opportunities. As I said, 3 targets to Davis's 4, not as many. So I don't know. I'm seeing a bit of a split backfield. Maybe it's because of the injury. Maybe they're looking to trade him. I don't know. I doubt, and of course I'm playing him in my most important league this week, but I doubt Breece Hall comes out and has 70% of snaps this week, to be honest with you, against Cincinnati. He should. He's the best player on the team. It's not even close. I guess Garrett Wilson, and it's not Garrett Wilson's fault. I should say maybe Breece is the most productive for fantasy. Maybe listen, Breece and Garrett, they're both good. I wish they had better surrounding pieces. I'll just leave it at that. I doubt Breece comes out and, drops 40 points on 75% of snaps just because of this lingering injury. Maybe they want to trade him. Davis looks good. So Davis is probably on your waivers. Maybe the Breece owner has him as a handcuff. If you are a Breece owner, you must own Davis. It's a no-brainer. You just have one less bench spot because you need to handcuff, and that's it. Okay, next guy is Alec Pierce. Now, Alec Pierce is a guy that has typically made me throw up a little bit in my mouth when I consider adding him to my team or whatever, because he's typically this 3-target player. 3 targets, catches 1 for 70 yards, falls down at the 2-yard line. That's cool because you have 8 points now in PPR, but yeah, sometimes he genuinely goes and gives you 1 or 0 points, okay? But Josh Downs missed last week with the concussion. He's practicing limited right now. Maybe he returns. He probably does. But Ashton Doolin and who's the other bro here? Forget his name. Oh, Adonai Mitchell. They're basically, they've been relegated. They are not part of this offense, and Alec Pierce has taken their work. We saw a season high 10 targets earned in week 7 here. He's averaging 19 plus yards per catch this year. The Colts are, for some reason, the best offense in the NFL. Daniel Jones and that offense can actually support 3 receivers if Downs returns, definitely 2. So Pittman, Downs, Pierce, those are your big 3 for this team. And in a game versus Tennessee where they couldn't guard, anything, they literally can't guard anything. You can put Alec Pierce in your lineup, in my opinion. If Downs misses, borderline must start. He's top 36 wide receiver, to be honest with you. So yeah, 5 catches, 98 yards last week, and he had 5 more targets. So A-plus matchup versus Tennessee. Okay, a guy that I want to talk about at the tight end position, who is a stash, who I really like. I really like this guy. I've been stashing him in my league. I played him a couple weeks in a row, and it's been working out. I'm a Bowers owner. I'm a Bowers owner myself, and although it's been full of pain, this man, Evan Engram, has helped me get through it a little bit. 3 straight weeks here with 9+ PPR points, 4 straight weeks with 6+ targets, and look at the snaps. So I'll just remind you, started the season injured, week 3 injured, weeks 1 through 3 injured, okay? Then in week 4, 7 targets, 6 targets in week 5. Week 6, he had 6 again. Then last week, 8 targets, season high 56% of snaps. There's a lot to like. We get Dallas this week. Highest over-under, tied for the highest over-under on the slate, 48.5 points last time I checked. We saw Bo Nix put up 30 of his own fantasy points in 1 quarter last week. Evan Engram. The role is growing. The routes are increasing. The snaps are increasing. The targets are increasing. And when you watch this guy, when he's healthy, 31 years old, man, when he's healthy, he's like a tight end version of Drake London, honestly, where he just has these long arms and no one can guard him because no one can reach as far as him. And then he grabs the ball and puts it up here and stiff arms you 10 feet away down here. That's what he does. He's very good after the catch. I really like Engram. Dallas this week. Honestly, I have him ranked as a top 10 tight end. In the Otten tier, I think I've Otten at 8 or 9. Engram right behind him. Gadsden in that tier, 8 through 10. I prefer Engram to Mason Taylor. I prefer Engram to, Fannin, Ertz. A lot of these guys, I prefer Engram. And if he can really just get these snaps 65, 70%, he's going to be really useful in this offense. So good to see, good for him. Okay, we go back to the Bears here, and it would not be a stash episode, guys, if I did not mention to you Luther Burden. Now, admittedly, I had to drop him in my league. In one of my leagues, I'm 3-5 or 3-4, and it's just okay, I need flexes this week. Can't start Burden this week, I think. But then I hear DJ Moore misses practice Wednesday. Let's see about what he's doing, today, whatever. And Burden by far is the most efficient wide receiver on the Bears when targeted. I don't have the exact numbers, the exact stats, but Caleb Williams has his highest passer rating. It's over 130, I believe, when he targets Luther Burden. 17 plus yards per catch since week 3 when they really started getting him integrated a little bit more on a quarter of the snaps. In week 6, out of the bye, we saw an effort to get him more involved, season high in receptions and targets. Now, it's not a lot, 4 targets, 4 catches, but 50 yards. And with stashes, with guys that are sitting on waivers who we're going to pay 0 fab for and not waste a claim on, we have to look for these early signs. It's like, I say this all the time, but it's literally like buying into a stock, and you just have to kind of look at it and be like, okay, yeah, this could happen. I see a path here. And guess what? If it doesn't, you act like me. You pick up Troy Franklin off the waivers for Burden this week because you need to start. Maybe it works out. Maybe he goes to the moon and you missed out. That's the name of the game. That's why we love stashing and why sometimes it doesn't work. But stashing players is, in my opinion, the best way to just get instant value. Take your team from a B- to an A rating. I digress. Burden, most talented wide receiver other than Rome Odunze on this team. Not even close. Just not even close. This team needs to continue with Odunze, Burden, and Loveland as the 3 pass catchers. Zacchaeus, he's great, whatever. See ya. DJ Moore, not needed anymore, brother. You and your 5 targets every week, 3 catches for 40 yards. That's all he does, by the way. Those guys, next year, Ben Johnson, I'm going to need you to move on and just roll with these 3. Because Burden complements Odunze perfectly and vice versa. And Loveland is just a mismatch. He's a matchup nightmare for any linebacker, any safety. He has that Bowers type of build. The guy's 6'6". So I love my Bears. Maybe Moore gets traded. Moore is, like I said, missing practice, banged up. Last week was in the hospital. So we shall see. Like the little meme going around of the bunny rabbit with the clock or whatever that is. I'm showing that to DJ Moore a little bit because this guy's lurking. Now, Burden, if I wouldn't expect it for a couple weeks, honestly. But down the stretch, some good matchups here. Obviously, Baltimore and Cincinnati, the next 2. Giants, Minnesota, Pittsburgh, Philly, Green Bay. I'm just not worried about these guys. Cleveland, Green Bay again, and San Fran. I'm not worried about a single matchup, honestly, for the wide receiver port. Those are some good defenses, but for wide receivers, pretty beatable. Now, I do have some additional stashes that are a bit deeper. So the first guy actually I want to talk about, I picked him up because I'm a Javonte owner in my league. And this guy doesn't even have a picture, but his name is Phil Mafah. I can't show it because of my face cam. All right, hold on. Yeah, anyway. Phil Mafah, the rookie, he was put on IR to start the season to preserve his roster spot. I'd be pretty surprised if they don't activate him or something because, as we know, Miles Sanders is out for the year. They're using Lupke. They're using Hunter Lupke a little bit. You're seeing him around 20% of snaps. But, for example, if something were to happen to Javonte, right? If Javonte were to miss time, I feel like Mafah and Blue would kind of be in this 50-50 split. Mafah was cooking in the preseason, and they just haven't activated him. So he's a guy where it's like, okay, I have an IR spot. Literally no one is good on the waivers. No options. Just go pick him up. You never know. That was a very deep pull. Jalen McMillan is the next guy. Similarly, very deep. He could come back like week 12 or 13. He could, if he gets a game or 2 before the fantasy playoffs and he's producing, with Mike Evans basically out for the year. At that point, you have Abuka, Godwin, and McMillan. I think there could be some value here. We go back to 2024. He was really dominant down the stretch. You look at his PPR points here starting in week 14. 21.9, 18.5, 16.7, 23, and 19. I mean, those are pretty insane numbers and no more than 7 targets in any of those games. Like, averaged well over a touchdown per game. He's really good when given the chance. So maybe he comes back and, produces. On that same note, though, kind of as this like 3rd target in the offense, we got to talk about Tez Johnson. I think he could have value kind of past just this week, filling in for Mike Evans. Now, he's a great fill-in. 9 targets last week. Evans is out. You're going to have Godwin out again. But even when Evans and Godwin are back, I think Johnson could play this 3rd wide receiver role. So Johnson or McMillan, I think they're, 6 targets a game, 5, 6, maybe 7 targets a game when the offense is, quote, fully healthy, is very valuable. So Tez Johnson could be started this week for sure. Absolutely. High-end wide receiver 4, if not like wide receiver 30 to 36. We also have rumors of Jalen Waddle being traded, which just makes Malik Washington, who actually out-targeted Waddle this last week, with 8 targets, caught 5 of them. I think Waddle only had 5 targets, left the game with injury. Absolute shocker. Just on my do not draft list for the rest of my career, honestly. I can't with him. Every time he catches the ball, he just gets up and limps off. They scrape him off the field, and maybe we see him again. It's the most insane thing. I'm just not holding back. It's really annoying. It's been annoying me for 4 years. It's the first time I've said something. Okay, anyway. Yeah. So if Waddle were to get traded, Malik Washington, bam, automatic flex value. 5+ targets here in 4 of the last 5 games. For that matter, 5 of all 7 games played, he has over 5 targets. So he's low-key a flex, honestly, in PPR, has yet to get in the end zone. Kind of pick your spots with him, but he's a great stash. Now, if Jacoby Myers gets traded, this guy, Jack Bech, is an absolute sicko. Like, if he were to start to see 6 or 7, 8 targets a game like we've seen Myers get, he'd be very good in PPR leagues, and he would fill right into the Myers role. Tre Tucker would maintain his role just based on the usage. Where is Tre Tucker here? But even still, like, I think Tucker's a nice little trade target, like, for bench. Like, give me Tre Tucker. Honestly, I'd prefer, like, Tre Tucker to Matthew Golden, for example. He's a guy who's a bit frustrating to own lately. He's not in this full-time role. A lot of Green Bay receivers coming back. You can just go get Tre Tucker, who, if Myers gets traded, of course, we'll see 1 or 2 more targets a game, probably, even though Jack Bech is in that exact role. And then for the defenses, that should say week 9 defense. That was a typo by me. I do like the Rams. They are playing the Saints at home, and then Jacksonville is playing Vegas on the road. Bowers is back, Genty, after the bye. It might not be as good, but I do like them as well, guys. So that's going to do it for the video today. You loved this video last week. I appreciate you guys. Thank you for the support.